the little wizard's first spell. Once upon a time, in a land filled with shimmering forests and crystal-clear lakes, there was a village nestled between rolling green hills. The village was known as Willowbrook, a place where magic was as real as the sun rising every morning. In every home, there was a touch of enchantment, floating lanterns at night, giggling teacups in the afternoon, and gardens that sang lullabies to the moon. But if you looked closely, behind the largest oak tree at the very edge of the village, you would find a tiny crooked cottage. And inside that cottage lived the littlest wizard of all, Oliver. Oliver was not like the other wizards, where their hats were tall and pointy, his flopped over his ears, where their robes were long and sweeping, his dragged behind him, catching every leaf and pebble in its path. But what Oliver lacked in height and style, he made up for with a heart full of curiosity and dreams that soared higher than the tallest towers. Today was a very special day for Oliver. It was the day he would try his very first spell. He woke up extra early, the sun just peeking over the hills. He rushed to his window, brushed aside the blue curtains with stars embroidered on them, and breathed in the fresh morning air. It smelled like honeysuckle and adventure. Today, Oliver whispered to himself, I will finally cast a spell. But what kind of spell should it be? He could try to turn a pebble into a cookie, as his friend Hazel had done last week. Or maybe he could make his hat stand up straight for once. But no, Oliver wanted his first spell to be special. Something that would help someone else, something that would make the world just a little bit brighter. He hurried to his bookshelf, which was stacked with heavy, leather-bound books. Some were so old they creaked when he opened them. Others were still shiny and new, gifts from his grandmother who lived in the clouds. He flipped through pages full of bubbling potions, magical creatures, and spells that could make rainbows dance. At last he found it, a spell for growing a friendship flower. The friendship flower was a rare and magical blossom. It shimmered with every color of the rainbow and smelled like your favorite memory. But most importantly, it only bloomed when someone truly wished to be a friend. Oliver's heart skipped a beat. This was perfect. He gathered everything he needed. A tiny silver watering can, a pinch of stardust, a thimble of giggles, and a pebble from his favorite spot by the lake. He carefully placed the pebble in a pot and sprinkled it with the stardust. Next, he added a drop of water from the silver can, which sparkled as it fell. Now for the most important part, the giggles. Giggles were tricky to collect, but Oliver kept a jar of them on his shelf, saved from the time his friend Luna had told a joke so funny he nearly fell off his chair. He opened the jar, and a little giggle escaped, swirling around the room before settling gently on the pebble. Oliver took a deep breath. He closed his eyes, pointed his wand, and whispered the words he'd practiced all week. Bloom and grow, bright and true. Friendship's magic through and through. Let your petals open wide, with kindness blooming deep inside. He waited and waited, but nothing happened. Oliver's shoulders drooped. Maybe he hadn't used enough stardust. Maybe his giggles had gotten old. Maybe he just wasn't ready to be a wizard. He picked up the pot and carried it outside. The garden was quiet, except for the chirping of early birds and the rustle of leaves in the breeze. He set the pot down on the old wooden bench and sat beside it. Just then he heard footsteps on the path. It was Maisie, the baker's daughter, carrying a basket of warm blueberry muffins. "Good morning, Oliver," Maisie called, her smile as bright as the morning sun. "What are you up to?" Oliver blushed. I tried to grow a friendship flower, but it didn't work." Maisie sat down next to him. "Can I take a look?" He nodded, handing her the pot. She examined it carefully, her nose crinkling as she peeked inside. "It's a very nice pebble," she said gently. "But you know, sometimes magic takes time. Why don't we wait together?" Oliver nodded, and Maisie handed him a muffin. They sat side by side, sharing muffins and stories. Maisie told Oliver about the time she tried to make cookies and ended up with a kitchen full of marshmallow clouds. Oliver giggled, and Maisie's laughter joined his, swirling around the garden like dandelion seeds. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, something amazing began to happen. The pebble in the pot started to shimmer. A tiny green sprout poked through the soil, stretching toward the sunlight. Oliver's eyes grew wide. He leaned closer, holding his breath. Slowly the sprout unfurled, revealing a delicate bud. The bud quivered, and then, pop! It blossomed into the most beautiful flower Oliver had ever seen. Its petals glowed with every color of the rainbow, and the air filled with a sweet, familiar scent, a mix of blueberry muffins and laughter. Maisie clapped her hands. "You did it, Oliver! You really did it!" Oliver grinned, feeling warmth spread through his chest. "We did it," he said. "I think the spell needed 2 friends." The friendship flower sparkled in the sunlight, its petals shimmering with magic. Everyone who passed by the garden that day felt a little lighter, a little happier, as if the flower's magic was spreading through the whole village. From that day on, Oliver knew that the best magic was the kind you shared. He practiced new spells every day, but he always made sure to invite a friend to join him. Sometimes the spells worked, and sometimes they didn't, but there was always laughter, and there was always kindness. As the seasons changed and the friendship flower grew, Oliver's garden became a gathering place for everyone in Willowbrook. Wizards and villagers, children and grown-ups, all came to sit beneath the flower's colourful petals and share their stories. And so the littlest wizard learned that the truest magic comes not from wands or words, but from the friendships we grow with care and love. One evening, as the sun was setting and the sky was painted with shades of pink and gold, Oliver sat in his garden with Maisie, Luna, and Hazel. They watched the stars blink to life, and the friendship flower glowed softly in the twilight. Hazel leaned over and whispered, "What will your next spell be, Oliver?" He thought for a moment, his eyes twinkling. "Maybe I'll try a spell for courage, or perhaps one for hope. But I think the best spell is the one we cast together." The friends smiled, and the garden echoed with laughter, carrying their joy into the night. And so, in the magical village of Willowbrook, the littlest wizard's first spell became a legend, a tale of hope, kindness, and the kind of friendship that makes the world a little more wonderful. But the story of Oliver and his friends didn't end there, for every day brought new adventures, new spells, and new chances to share the magic that lived in their hearts. One crisp autumn morning, as the leaves turned golden and the air tasted of apples and cinnamon, Oliver woke up with a new idea. He wanted to create a spell that would help the animals of the forest prepare for winter. He hurried into his garden, where the friendship flower stood tall and proud. With Maisie, Luna, and Hazel by his side, Oliver gathered acorns, feathers, and a splash of dew from a spider's web. They whispered kind words to the hedgehogs, left tiny scarves for the mice, and sang to the birds as they flew south for the season. As they worked, the animals gathered around, their eyes bright with gratitude. The spell filled the air with warmth and cheer, wrapping every creature in a cozy blanket of magic. The villagers watched from their windows, marveling at the little wizard and his friends. They realized that magic wasn't just about spells and potions. It was about caring for one another, sharing laughter, and lending a hand whenever it was needed. Winter arrived, and snow covered Willowbrook in a sparkling white blanket. The village was peaceful, and the friendship flower glowed even brighter against the snowy backdrop. Oliver and his friends built snow wizards, sipped hot cocoa, and told stories by the fire. On the coldest night of the year, when the wind howled and the stars shivered in the sky, Oliver stood by his window, looking out at the sleeping village. He smiled, knowing that his first spell had blossomed into something far greater than he'd ever imagined. A friendship that would last through every season, every adventure, and every dream. And so, whenever you feel a little lonely or wish for a friend, just remember the littlest wizard and his magical garden in Willowbrook. For somewhere, a friendship flower is blooming, its petals open wide, ready to share its magic with anyone who believes in the power of kindness and the wonder of a true friend. So close your eyes, take a deep breath, and imagine yourself in that enchanted garden beneath the colourful petals of the friendship flower. Feel the warmth in your heart, the the joy in your laughter, and the magic that lives in every act of kindness. For the greatest spell of all is simply this: to be a friend and to let friendship bloom wherever you go. And that, dear listener, is the story of the little wizard's first spell. A story that reminds us all that even the smallest wizards can cast the biggest magic of all. Now, as the night grows quiet and the moon rises high, may you carry a piece of that magic with you, wherever your dreams may lead. The end. But if you listen closely, you might just hear the gentle giggle of a friendship flower blooming somewhere nearby, waiting to share its magic with you. And every time you share a smile, a laugh, or a helping hand, know that you too are casting a little wizard's spell, one that will grow and blossom, bringing light and joy to all those around you. So sleep well, young dreamer, and remember, the world is full of magic, just waiting for you to discover it.